Alright, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders of GMS, who well, peace and salutations to the Akim in the four corners, Christian truth with sincerity. I'm going to get straight into Maccabees, the second chapter. Matter of fact, the last chapter of the book of the Apocrypha, which is Second Maccabees, chapter 15. This is Second Maccabees, chapter 15, 2 Maccabees chapter 15, verse 1. But Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set upon them on the Sabbath day. So these are heathens plotting against the children of Israel. You know, so they plotting on our holy days because they figure that we're not going to fight, because that's a day of rest. Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, "Oh, destroy not so cruelly and barbarously, but give honor to that day which he that seeth all things hath honored with holiness above other days." So you had sellout Israelites with them that were basically saying, you know, damn, have a little compassion on them, you know. Verse 3, then the most ungracious wretched demanded if there were a Almighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. This goes to show that the heathens, they don't know the Most High. You know, he's arrogantly and this is the pride of Esau. You know, this is straight Edomite right here, Nicanor, or I call him Nigganor. So he's the pride in his heart is deceived him. The ones that dwell in the cleft of the rocks. You know, if you look at the caves of Mount Petra, they look exactly like the Colosseums that you see today in Washington D.C. You know, if you get a chance to look up Mount Petra, it says, verse 3, then the most ungracious wretch demanded if there were a Almighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. So he said, okay, yeah, I would if there was one. And when they said, there is in heaven a living Lord and mighty, who commanded the seventh day to be kept. And when they said, there is in heaven a living Lord and mighty, who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, and I also am mighty upon earth, and I commanded to take arms and to do the king's business. Yet he obtained not to have his wicked will, yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done. So Nicanor, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set upon a public mount of his victory over Judas and them that were with him. But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that Yahweh would help him. Scripture says, whoever trusted in Yahweh and was confounded, or, you know, was overthrown. You know, that's that faith that the Most High gives you. You know, that faith that keeps us grounded. Verse 7. But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that Yahweh would help him. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, which is the Most High. He destroyed the firstborn of the Egyptians. So what do you think? It's a light thing right now to, you know, destroy this little battle. You know, this is easy work right here for the Most High. They had received from heaven, and now to expel the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. And so comforting them out of the law, which goes to show that this Bible, the Spirit on this Bible is the comforter. And the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he had made them more cheerful. Verse 10, and when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, shewing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths. So going to show you how, you know, basically saying, imagine us being scared of some heathens that breathe the same air as us, that don't have the living power on their side. You know, who the fuck are they? Verse 11, thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defensive shields and spears, as with comfortable and good words. So he armed them with comfortable and good words. That goes, David and Goliath, beautiful example. You know, you have that faith, the Most High delivered the heathens into your hand, the Most High will straight do it. But you really got to have that faith. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them. And this was his vision, that Onias, who had been the high priest, a virtuous and a good man, reverent in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hands, prayed for the whole body of the Jews. This done in like manner, there appeared a man with gray hairs and exceeding glorious, who was a wonderful and exceeding majesty. Then Onias answered, saying, This is a lover of the brethren, who prayeth much for the people and for the holy city, to wit, Jeremiah, the prophet of God. Whereupon Jeremiah, who is Jeremiah, holding forth his right hand, gave to Judas a sword of gold, and in giving it spake thus, Take this holy sword, a gift from God, with the which thou shalt wound the adversaries. Adversary is another word for Satan. Thus, being well comforted by the words of Judas, which were very good, and able to stir them up to valor, and to encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined to pitch camp, but courageously to set upon them, and manfully to try the matter by conflict, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. For the care that they took for their wives and their children, their brethren and kinfolks, was in least account with them, but the greatest and principal fear was the holy temple. Also, they that were in the city took not the least care, being troubled for the conflict abroad. And now, when as all looked what should be the trial, and the enemies were already come near, and the army was set in array, and the beasts conveniently placed, and the horsemen set in wings, Maccabeus, seeing of the multitude and the divers preparations of armor, and the fierceness of the beast, stretched out his hands towards heaven. Miracles. This is the Most High. The Most High loves showing his miracles right when you look like you about to be in trouble. You know, so don't always fear when you get in a little trouble. That's when the Most High shows his miracles. I can testify for myself. There's been times where I've been down, out on my fucking knuckles, and then I'll just find a $20 bill out of nowhere. $1 bill, and I might just need just the bare minimum to get to my next check, and it just pops up somewhere. Maccabeus, seeing the coming of the multitude and the divers preparations and armor and the fierceness of the beast, stretched out his hands toward heaven, and called upon Yahweh that worketh wonders, knowing that victory cometh not by arms, but even as it seemeth good to him, he giveth it to such as are worthy. Therefore his prayer he said after this manner, O Yahweh, thou didst send thine angel in the time of Ezekias king of Judah, and didst slay in the host of Sennacherib 185,000. Wherefore now also, O Yahweh of heaven, send a good angel before us, for fear and dread unto them. And through the might of thine arm, let those be stricken with terror that come against thy holy people to blaspheme. And he ended thus. Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs. That's how you know that war trumpet. He was beating that war trumpet. That's the spirit of, just show there's a spirit on music and instruments. You know, get you riled up, makes you want to fight. But Judas and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer, so that fighting with their hands and praying unto God with their hearts, they slew no less than 35,000 men. Through the appearance of God, they were greatly cheered. Now when the battle was done, returning again with joy. Now they did us all with their hands, no weapons. Only weapon they had was the fear of the Most High and belief and faith in the Most High. And that's how you know the Most High gets glorified. Now, when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language, in Hebrew. And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love towards his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem as a trophy to show that, this motherfucker's dead. Just so you don't have to hear word by mouth. Look at this nigga's head on the spear that we holding up, 30 feet up in the air. And his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. So when he was there and had called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower and showed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of that blasphemer which the proud brags had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. And when he had cut out the tongue of the ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls, and gave up the reward of his madness before the temple. And that's that's beautiful. Make sure everybody sees how much of a nigga he is. Give it to the fowls. That goes to show that's how fucking low he is. He's fucking bird food. Show you how people might have looked at him as this great statue or this undefeatable force, and now the motherfucker getting ate by fucking fucking fowls like birds. It's amazing how the Most High can turn things around 180 in a matter of days, seconds, minutes, hours. So every man prays toward heaven, the glorious Yahweh, saying, Blessed be he that keepeth his own place undefiled. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of Yahweh. And they ordained all with a common decree in no case to let that day pass without solemnity, but to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, which in the Syrian tongue is called Adar, the day before Marcadius Day. Thus went it with Nicanor, and from that time from the Hebrews had the city in their power. And here will I make an end. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, it is that which I desired. But if the slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain unto. For as it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant and the delightful the taste, even so speech finely framed delighteth the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end. So it was a celebration of the destruction of the heathen, and and that was basically the gist of that chapter. We was able to defeat a heathen through the spirit and power of the Most High. No weapons, no sticks, no stones, no cunning war devices. We did it with our hands, and the belief in the Most High. And he sent his help. And on that note, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the Apostle GMS well. Peace and salutations, and shalom.